What's up, everyone? This is the Campus Connection. He's big man on campus, Jeff Nadeau. I'm Drew Martin. We're going to be going over a little Maction today, the Mac West. Big man, how you doing?
Doing great, Drew. Good to be back with you. Talking about Mac football. Excited.
Yeah, man, talking some college football. We did the roundtable earlier, had a little disagreement, so usually it makes for good content.
Great content, Drew. It's great content. We usually, I know with these Campus Connections, we've been pretty similar as far as our opinions. So I'm excited to hear what you think about the Mac West.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to hear your opinion as well. I mean, you're one of the guys that I really respect's opinions. So when we're going against each other, I try to find holes in your argument and then see if it really makes sense.
I try to be right 55% of the time, Drew.
And you'd be a real rich man if you could.
I don't know that I'm a rich man. I'm trying to be rich. I never know. Maybe someday.
That is one thing. It takes a little money to make money if you're talking about 55%. But where do you want to start? Start at the top with the Toledo Rockets?
Yeah, we could. I guess alphabetical if you're cool with that. It doesn't matter to me though.
Okay. So alphabetical with the. This time, do you mind if we go from like kind of the best teams to the worst teams?
I don't care. We can do whatever you want.
All right, let's do the Toledo Rockets first. Jason Candle's second season, 9-4 last year, did 10-2 in year 2015. We got Logan Woodside, arguably one of the better quarterback or one of the best quarterbacks in the MAC. I like him a lot. This Toledo team is good, likely the favorites to win the whole MAC. Start off with Elon, then at Nevada, Tulsa, at Miami before a bye week and then getting into Maction. That Eastern Michigan game, I think EMU might be a sacrificial lamb there. Toledo might roll right over them in week one of Maction. But how are you feeling about Toledo this year, big man?
Yeah, I'm feeling really good about them. I think they're the team to beat in this conference. And, other than Miami, I think their out-of-conference schedule is pretty feasible. I mean, Nevada's not very good. They should beat Tulsa at home. But you look at this team overall, I mean, what's not to like, Drew? I mean, particularly offensively, 38 points a game last year. I think they have the best quarterback in the league probably in Logan Woodside. They have a really good run game with Terry Swanson, and they have a good group of wide receivers. The interesting thing about them is, and I wonder, will their defense come back to hurt them at some point? They're a team that just looks to outscore you. You look at the other two teams that we've talked about, Miami of Ohio and Ohio, even throwing Western Michigan, all three of those teams are pretty good defenses. So I wonder, will that ever come back to bite them? But at the end of the day, they haven't been to the MAC championship, Drew, since 2004, which is amazing. They've had great years, but they never seem to get up over the hump and get there and win. So it'll be an interesting year. I'll be interested to see if they can actually get up over the hump. But I really think they have to be the favorite, particularly with their schedule. And again, they get Western Michigan at home, which is a good one. They get Eastern at home, which is one you mentioned. They're kind of an up-tempo, upstart team. I like Toledo a lot. I have to think they're the leader in this division right now.
Yeah, and they do have to pull Ohio from the other side. So that is one downside with their schedule. I think they have a favorable bye week. As far as 8.5 is the season win total, how are you feeling on that?
I'm one to say that they go over that, Drew. I really think, I mean, maybe other than at Ohio, I think I'm hard-pressed to think that they lose a game in this conference. I think they're very good. They don't have to play Miami of Ohio. Western Michigan, they get at home in the last game of the year. Again, they haven't really ever won anything. So I think for them, the goal is to really just pound every team into oblivion. You also have to remember last year, Ohio beat them in Toledo. So again, that's a game that I think they're going to want to kind of play well in and kind of get the bad taste out of their mouth after that game. They didn't play good defensively in that game. I think in this one, this year, they're going to be a little bit more ready for that one. I think the schedule is actually kind of favorable, to be honest. They have 1 or 2 losses, I think, on the schedule. But I think other than that, I think they're a 9 or 10 win team.
I do too. I agree with you. I like them over 8.5. I don't know if I'll bet it, tie up the money. I got to really like a season win total, but
right.
I agree with you. I mean, outside of Miami, I mean, how's Tulsa going to be this year? I think that could be a competitive game. But other than that, I think that they really can. They'll likely be the favorites in at least 9 or 10 games.
Yeah, and I mean, look, this conference, the side of this conference is a little bit. It's pretty tough. I mean, there's some good teams here. I mean, I don't think we should count out. Central Michigan's a tough game always, and Eastern Michigan's an upstart team. But I think overall, they're just better than every other team offensively. They're going to really do some good things on that side of the ball this year.
Yeah, and on the defensive side, I think they return a bunch of their D linemen as well, so they should be able to get after the quarterback. Western Michigan Broncos on the Tim Lester taking over for what's his face going over to Minnesota, so it will be his first year. They went 13-1 last year. New quarterback, kind of a bunch of question marks as far as handicapping a team in the MAC. For the better side, for the top echelon of the MAC. This is a lot of question marks in the Western Michigan Broncos here. Kalamazoo, they do play well there, but they got to start off at USC and at Michigan State. So two tough tests right here, and then Idaho before getting into Wagner in the MAC, the MAC schedule. So how are you feeling about Western Michigan? You looking to bet on them or looking to?
Yes, I'm looking to bet on Western Michigan. I'm excited about this team this year. I really am. I think a lot of people look at this team and say, well, they're going to be down. PJ Fleck left. They lost Terrell. They lost Corey Davis. You're right. Those are big shoes to fill. But I think Tim Lester is really inheriting a very good program here. I think a lot of people need to understand Tim Lester is a Western Michigan guy. He went to Western Michigan. He played quarterback there. He was in the running to win this job when they gave it to PJ Fleck. So this is really his dream job. It's a job that I think he's really wanted his whole career. And I think they're going to really take to him here at Western Michigan. And you look at some of the things he's already done. Robert Spillane, one of the better players on defense for this team, he had plans to leave the university after Fleck left, but they ended up getting him to stay. I really think that's a big plus, and you're already starting to see people kind of buy into his culture. You look at Terrell. They lose him, but they bring in Joe Flacco's little brother, Tom, who, if you watch Western Michigan last year, they put him in games in short yard situations when the games are kind of out of hand. He got some valuable reps. He's a good little player, a guy that I think, may struggle early on. I'm not going to say they're going to beat or even be competitive against USC, but I think getting a large number, it's hard to say that they won't hang around in that game. They have a very good run game with Jarvion Franklin and Levante Bellamy. They have a really good group of guys on the offensive line. And defensively, I think they're very good. I think in the linebacking core, they're good. Darius Phillips on the outside in the defensive backfield. I really like this team. And, for many people thinking they can't go on the road and win in Western or in Michigan State, don't be so sure. I know Michigan State's going to be improved, but this is a team that went on the road last year and beat Northwestern. They beat Illinois. They can go on the road and beat Big Ten teams. I'm pretty high on them. You're not going to be able to replace what Fleck and those guys did there. And look, I don't think they're going to go and play in the Cotton Bowl this year, but I think they're going to be a team that's really going to challenge to win this conference. They're going to be right in there as a top 4 team, and they're going to cover a lot of numbers. I'm definitely looking forward to them week 1 against USC. A little bit of an overrated USC team, if you ask me.
So do you like them over 8 wins, big man?
Well, I mean, I looked over it, and I think it's 8 or 9. I mean, Idaho and Wagner, I think they'll win. They get those games at home. They're going to start out 0-2, I think. Look, if they could somehow beat Michigan State, that'd be absolutely huge for this team. But I really can't say that I think that's going to happen. But they'll win their next 4 games, their next 5 games. I think they can beat Eastern Michigan and Central Michigan at 7. And then you need Kent State or Northern Illinois. I think they're going to be right around 8 or 9 wins, Drew. I think 8's kind of where I'm looking for them. They're definitely going to make a bowl. And look, if Flacco plays well, sky's the limit really for them. But I think 8's about right. It's not worth betting for me. But I think they're 7, 8, about that area.
Yeah, and they pull Kent State and Buffalo from the other side. That's kind of beneficial for them.
They don't play Toledo, or they do play Toledo last game of the year. I'm sorry. And as far as the other side, they know Ohio, no Miami of Ohio. But at the end, at Toledo, that's a tough football game. But really, the sky's the limit for them. I think they're going to be their coach is coming into a much better situation than a lot of guys. I mean, a lot of guys come into a totally rebuilt team. They have plenty of playmakers on this football team.
Yeah, that at Toledo game, that's cool how the MAC did that. That could be the division championship there in the last game of the season on Friday night. But moving on to the Huskies of Northern Illinois, we got Rod Carey in his 5th year. This is a team that really dropped off, big man. I think it's an interesting case study as far as how this program was built and did very well there in Illinois, but yet over the last couple of years, it's kind of fallen off a little bit. Last year, missed a bowl game. Interesting to see Northern Illinois not in bowl season. This year, starting off with Boston College on a Friday night, then getting an FCS opponent before going at Nebraska and a tough one at San Diego State. So they're out of conference is kind of tough. You think they can hang in here week one with Boston College?
No, I don't. I think this team's going to have another a tough year. I mean, last 2 years, 26 games, they've started 5 different quarterbacks, 4 last year. So, I mean, until they figure out what they're going to do at the quarterback position, it's hard for me to get involved with them. They put out some good players, though, I mean, over the years. I mean, we talked about it on the roundtable with Kenny Golladay. They've had some guys that you got to feel pretty good about. And, the problem is they're not consistent with their play. I mean, they were once a really good team in the MAC. I mean, they're winning a lot of MAC championships. They were always there, but just too many injuries. Who's your quarterback? Is it Ryan Graham? Is it Santa Catarina? Who is it? There's just not a lot that I'm really high on with them. Boston College, I think it'll be a boring game. It'll be a game where I'm not sure we'll see 40 points. But again, they got to go to Nebraska. They got to go to San Diego State, who they beat last year, by the way, which I don't think will happen this year. But they have some tough games at Toledo, Western, at Central Michigan. I just think they're a middle of the tier type of team. Bowling would be a real success. I do like Chad Beebe, a receiver they have on the outside. If they can get some sort of quarterback play, I'm decently high on them, maybe from a spread perspective, but they can't. Actually, I'm sorry. Last year they beat San Diego State. My fault. I could have sworn they won that game. They ended up losing. I'm sorry. But yeah, they need a better in the out of conference, and I'm not sure that's going to be this year. They might win a couple games if they had lost last year, but I'm just not overly high on Northern Illinois. Until they get a quarterback, a standpoint set quarterback, I don't really have much on it.
Yeah, and speaking of quarterback, what do they have? Daniel Santa Catarina or Ryan Graham?
Yeah, and Ryan Graham played decent last year. It's just they've used so many quarterbacks. I mean, 5 quarterbacks in 2 years, Drew. I mean, that's a lot of rolling guys in and out. They just really haven't had much success. They lost Joe Buono, who was a really reliable running back for them, and they've just lost a lot. It's hard to really kind of get excited about this team. They just haven't been very stable.
So what are you thinking? Do they make a bowl game or no?
I'm gonna say no. I think they're a 5-win.
No too.
Yeah, I think they're a 5-win team. They have a tough out of conference schedule, and you look at their wins. I mean, they'll beat Eastern Illinois, Kent, Buffalo, Bowling Green, and Ball State. I think they're a 5 or 6 win team. They're going to be right on bowl eligibility. I think it's going to be tough, but I don't think there's much value in their win total.
Okay. Well, moving on to the Chippewas, Central Michigan. They're in Mount Pleasant. This is another team actually that has a lot of question marks in my mind. I probably won't be involved the first couple weeks. Maybe that at Syracuse game week 3. I like Syracuse a lot, so might be looking to fade Central Michigan. I also like Syracuse totals over. And looking at Central Michigan, I think that Syracuse would be able to put up some points against them. But looking down their schedule, looks like they start off Rhode Island, at Kansas, at Syracuse, Miami of Ohio. They're pulling from the other side of the division. And then at Boston College. They also got Ohio on the other side. So they're pulling the 2 best teams from the other division. That's not good for Central Michigan. This is not a team I see going bowling, big man. Are you in agreement on that?
I'm actually a little higher on them than you. I think offensively they'll be decent. But again, we have to remember they lost Cooper Rush, who was not only the best player in CMU history, arguably a quarterback, but he was the most prolific passer in MAC history. I mean, he did things more than Ben Roethlisberger did. I mean, Cooper Rush was an absolutely fantastic quarterback, and it's a big person to lose. But they still have some obvious decent players on offense. I mean, Corey Willis and Mark Chapman are good receivers. Romello Ross is a good running back. If they can get Shane Morris, who played at Michigan, didn't get any reps there, moved to Central, if they can get him to play well, I don't think they're a bad football team offensively. Defensively is their problem. They're going to be a good over team. I would look to bet on them over. I don't think they're going to be as stagnant as some people might think offensive. But it's really all about Shane Morris. Can you get him to perform at a high level? Can you get him to kind of shake off the Division I high level program and go to a smaller program and compete? I think you can. I think he's a decent player. He might do some good things for them. But they have to figure out how to run the football. That was a big problem last year. I think they're comfortable and capable, but defensively is going to be their problem. And can they replace Cooper Rush? But I don't think it's crazy to think that they can start out 2-0. Syracuse will be a fun game. There'll be a lot of points in that game. Then you got Miami of Ohio at home, not bad. But you got to go to Ohio, Toledo, 2 games in a row. Tough schedule. I think they're a 5-win team. I think it's a win if they can get to a bowl, especially with a new quarterback.
Okay. We'll see. Yeah, you are a little bit higher than me. Do you know anything about the quarterback position? Tony?
No, they're going to go with Shane Morris out of Michigan. So Michigan, he obviously wasn't getting any reps there with Wilton Spade and John O'Korn. There was a number of guys kind of in the running there. He transferred. Look, I mean, it'll be interesting to see who they go with. I mean, Tony Polian is 6'7". So, I mean, he's a redshirt freshman, big kid. You got to wonder. I'd love to see him play quarterback at some point. That'll be interesting. A really big kid, but I think the grad transfer here is a better decision. He was a 4-star recruit. He went to Michigan. They just couldn't find time for him. I think at a smaller program he'll do better. But I'm interested to see the 6'7" kid play. See if he gets any reps. But again, they're a 5-win team, I think.
So about Shane Morris, is he like a dual threat guy or more of a pocket passer?
Shane Morris is more of a pocket passer.
Man, I'm kind of a fan of starting the young kid. You're bringing in a senior transfer. He's going to play 1 year. I mean, I don't know. I guess, especially because they may not make a bowl anyway. So.
Yeah, from what I understand, though, the quarterback battle's gotten the group fired up. I mean, I think people are excited about these 2 guys, 2 capable guys. You got the older kid who's got one last chance. And I got to tell you, I think Shane Morris has been extremely disappointing. I was pretty high on him coming out of high school. He hasn't really matriculated much. It's kind of a shame. But, from what I understand and reading some of the blogs and stuff out of Mount Pleasant, the team's excited about these 2. Both these guys are committed. They're raring and ready to go. I think at nothing, though, of 2 capable quarterbacks, which I don't think a lot of people can say.
Okay. Well, let's go to Eastern Michigan, the Eagles. Chris Creighton in his 4th year, one of the more underrated coaches in all of college football, in my opinion, big man. I like this guy a lot. I like what he's doing here at Eastern Michigan. Obviously, bringing him to a bowl game last year was an impressive coaching feat. They got Charlotte to start it off. I think that's a really interesting game. Tricky handicap there. Then they go at Rutgers, Ohio at home, at Kentucky, at Toledo, at Army, Western Michigan. It gets really tough to find definitely guaranteed wins, if not, competitive games down the stretch. I am not very high on Eastern Michigan. This is a team I'm looking to go under on their season win total. South Point's hanging a 4.5. I don't see 5 wins on this schedule. How are you looking at Eastern Michigan this year, big man?
Well, look, I mean, they've made their first bowl game in 29 years. You got to give Chris Creighton a ton of credit. This program is really at the doldrums, at the bottom. And look, I got to tell you, last year I thought they were pretty impressive at times. I mean, they really played well against Wyoming early in the season. They really played well in certain games, beat Ohio, beat Central Michigan late. They were really competitive in their bowl game down at the Palmas Bowl. A really good game, I thought. A really high-level defensive game. Really kind of impressed with both sides. This is another team that I don't know that I'm high on, but I think are a little bit better than we might think. I think last year they really surprised me. I thought like you did this year. I thought, this team isn't going to do much of anything. I don't think they can win games, but they surprised me early. I mean, you look at right away, I mean, they get crushed by Missouri 61-21, and I'm thinking, same old team here from Eastern Michigan, but they ended up winning 3 in a row and 4 out of 5 and really kind of made their way into a bowl game. I look at this schedule. I think they'll beat Charlotte. I think they'll beat Rutgers, honestly. Kentucky's tough, but, I mean, Kentucky's not that good. They get Ball State. They get Bowling Green. Army will be an interesting game, probably a boring game there. I think, Drew, they're hard to hang around 5 wins. If they can make a bowl again 2 straight years, I think that would be a huge success. But I like Shaq Van, the running back they have. Brogan Roback, a pretty capable quarterback as well, kind of a dual threat player. And defensively they were pretty good in the run game. They need to improve their passing. But overall, Central and Eastern Michigan, I think will be wins if they can make bowls. But I got a feeling they're just going to be on the outside. I think they're a 5-win team. If they could somehow find a way to beat Kentucky or Army, they could be a bowl team.
Interesting story. I ran into Brogan Roback in the Atlanta airport. He was coming back from the bowl game, and he was wearing an Eastern Michigan hat. He's a lot skinnier than you would think. He's not a very built dude. But I will say this, Charlotte game, week 1, I like Charlotte, plus the 2 touchdowns. I think that they can cover that spread. I think that they're riding a little bit under the radar. In Eastern Michigan, it's one of those teams, it's the old saying, like, I think you're a year late. If you're looking to bet on Eastern Michigan, I think last year was your year. So
that's a great point, Drew. That's a very good point. I think you're right. Last year was kind of the spot for them. They had a special year. They reminded you a lot of Old Dominion, the team that they played in the bowl game. They were a team I don't think a lot of people expected much out of. They had kind of a banner year, but I think we could agree it was probably a little premature. I don't think they're going to get as lucky this year. I don't think Charlotte will beat them, but you're right. It might be a competitive game. I think they're a 5-win team. If they could find a way, like I said, to go on the road and beat a Central Michigan, beat an Army, beat a Kentucky, they're a bowl team to me. But if they can't, they're a 5-win team.
Okay. Let's move on to obviously this is the West Division is the stronger of the 2 divisions, in my opinion. The last place team, though, not very good. The Ball State Cardinals. We got Mike New. Is that pronounced correct?
Mike New, yep.
In his 2nd year in Muncie, Indiana. They got at Illinois, UAB, Tennessee Tech, Western Kentucky to start off their out-of-conference schedule. Riley Neal's pretty good. I do like him at the quarterback position. He's okay anyway. But are you looking to bet on Ball State or looking to fade Ball State early, big man?
I'm looking to fade Ball State. I actually think they're one of the worst teams in the country. I think they will be really bad. You mentioned Riley Neal. He's going to really be behind the 8 ball. He missed all of spring with an injury. And last year, I mean, he had flashes, but overall, I mean, 13-12 TD to interception ratio wasn't good enough. The real problem with this team is lack of playmakers and a really bad defense. I mean, they were hideous last year at times defensively, particularly in with the pass. And that's the problem. I mean, in this conference, you have to be good against the pass. I mean, most of these teams can throw the football. Toledo, again, they might be a little bit better this year just because, some of these quarterbacks are gone, Cooper Rush and Zach Terrell. But at the end of the day, they're just not very talented. New has a team that you have a quarterback. Where's he at in his rehabilitation? Is he going to be ready for the first game of the season? He missed all of spring. You do have 12 seniors, which is good, but I just don't see much here. I mean, the schedule is I think you have 2-3 wins here for Ball State. You should be able to beat Tennessee Tech and UAB, but other than that, I mean, Buffalo maybe. I don't think they're going to – I think they're a 3-win team, Drew. There's just not a lot to like. They don't have many playmakers, no explosiveness, and they're just poor defensively.
You know what their season win total is, big man?
What is it?
5.
Yeah, that's another lock. And again, we've talked about this. You can make a lot of money if you're okay with tying your money up. If you have a nice bankroll, and I want to tell everyone, we do have some people watching here with college football. I've talked to Drew about this. I spend a lot of time with college football. I know we do a lot of baseball and stuff like that, but college football is truly a passion. College sports is my thing. It's something that I spent a lot of time on throughout the years, and I really entrenched myself in this kind of stuff. And if you're okay with tying your money up, futures in college football are really profitable. If you really kind of bear down and know these teams, and at 5, this just doesn't make sense. I mean, it really doesn't. I mean, I've went over their schedule multiple times. I understand these teams. I mean, they would really have to be a surprise. They would really have to, somehow beat. I don't know if they can beat Illinois. It's possible, but you have a quarterback problem there with Neal. I don't see 6 wins. I mean, I find it to be amazing that the line's 5. It's something that I know. I thought it was 4.5 for some reason, but at 5, I mean, they won 4 games last year, and I mean, again, I think that's kind of the ceiling for them, Drew.
I mean, what about this Illinois game, week 1? Because I'm going through their schedule. I'm trying to pick out the wins. I'm seeing UAB, Tennessee Tech, Buffalo towards the end of the season. Other than that, I mean, I guess you could say Akron, even CMU and EMU, right, could be competitive. But
I mean, EMU's on the road, Akron's on the road. I think Central Michigan's a better team than they are. And again, I mean, I guess you could say Buffalo. That's 3 wins. And I mean, can we agree though? I mean, is Buffalo a guarantee? I mean, Buffalo's about the same team. At least Buffalo's a capable quarterback and a guy that we know is not injured. It's tough. I mean, again, we're kind of grasping here. If you said to me right now, you can get under 4, I would take that. Honestly, I don't feel good about this team. I think 3 is their ceiling, and that's about it. If we're going to flip coins on Ball State winning games, I'm gonna pick the other team most of the time. There are very few teams that I would put over Ball State in the country. There's probably maybe 10 teams that are worse. Other than that, they're I think the worst team in this conference, and arguably a top 10 worst in the country.
Yeah, I agree with you. And when you look down the schedule, betting season wins, if you're going to look to bet on a team, you want the teams that they can beat to be at home. And you brought up a good point that a lot of these teams like EMU in Northern Illinois, where they have
looks like we lost Drew there. We'll look to get him back. Yeah, we'll get Drew back, and I'll kind of finish it up here. Luckily, we were almost done here. I knew he was making a point. We'll get him right back. Looks like he's having a little trouble joining. Drew, you back with us now?
I'm here, man. Sorry, okay. I don't know what's going on, but
all good. Yeah. What were you saying?
I was just saying about you want the winnable games to be at home when you're talking about season win totals, and you had Northern Illinois and Eastern Michigan. They're both on the road, and those are like outside chances.
Yeah, and Drew, I made this case the other day, and I think this is one thing when you're looking at win totals you really have to pay attention to. When you're getting teams that at the end of the season, like a Ball State, that need to go and win games, and they're playing teams that might be a little bit better, unfortunately, those teams are also going to be gunning for wins also because they're probably in the same situation as you. Eastern Michigan and Northern Illinois will be possible bowl teams if they can get things to go their way. They're going to be gunning for wins too, and they're going to be looking squarely at Ball State saying, this is a game we need to take seriously and win. We can win. Like I said with other teams, and I think that's what UL Monroe's problem is, a lot of their games against winnable teams, I believe, are late in the season. If they were early on, I'd say, you know what, you're on a more level playing field. Late in the season, against Eastern Michigan and Northern Illinois, they're going to need to win those games just as much as Ball State does. So it's tough. But again, you're right. I mean, they're getting some games at home, but those 2 games are on the road, Drew. And Riley Neal's, it's not like he has like a concussion or something. It's a shoulder injury, unfortunately, and it's going to take some time to get back, on the mend. And I got to tell you, Jack Milas, their backup, is not someone you want in there. We'll see. The problem is, even when he comes back, Neal, there's not a ton of position players that are good. So I think it's going to be another tough year for New. He's in his first year. It's not an easy job for sure.
Yeah, man. Well, we're both in agreement. Probably the under on Ball State is a look. I might bet it. Have you gotten to bet any season win totals yet?
I have not put in any yet. I think a couple in Big 12 I ended up putting in. I've mostly focused on winning conferences and Heisman Trophy and some of the higher end conference futures and Final Four, that kind of thing. But Drew, one last thing on Neal. One thing new he mentioned in his offseason was he had unrealistic expectations. We have to know that Mike knew Coach Drew Brees, and again, from what I understand, there were a little bit of unnecessary and unfair realistic expectations, and they weren't really there. They have a long way to go for me, but overall, no, I have not done any yet, Drew. I haven't put in any bets just yet. I really wish I could find a book that I could kind of manipulate them on, but I'm probably not going to be able to find that. So I'm going to just kind of rock with them probably in the next week or so, and because I want to get the most information as possible. You know what I'm saying?
What about Five Dimes has them out on all the teams?
They do. Which that's not my problem. I wish there was a way that, like in the NFL, on Five Dimes you could manipulate the win total. On Five Dimes, they give you 4 or 5 different options at better prices. So if the Vikings are at 9, they might give you 10.5 at plus 220. So if you're very bullish on a team or really low on a team, you can manipulate it to a better price. And with certain teams, like I would love to take Ball State and say, I think they're a 3-win team. I'm going to take them down to 3.5 at plus 195 and get a much better price. That way, for me, if I'm putting my money on a team at plus 185, I have a whole lot more of a rooting interest than just laying 110 and keeping my money locked up for 6 or 7 months. It's just, for me, something. If you're studying the teams the way we are, I'd love to get a little bit more back in doing that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Good point on the season win totals. I think it's a winnable bet for sure. So you got to lock up your money.
I think as we wrap up the MAC, Drew, and kind of move on, I think we can be in agreement that it's going to, for me, it's Toledo and Ohio in the conference title for me. And I think Toledo will finally win this conference. It's been a long time since they even got to the final, 2004. I think this is final of the year. I think Logan Woodsad's the guy to do it. But I really like Ohio. I really like Miami of Ohio. And don't sleep on Western Michigan. They're going to be a team that I don't think is going to miss much a beat. They're going to cover a lot of numbers and bet against Ball State and Buffalo.
Okay. And thanks, Kyle and Rich Banks, Sal, all for chiming in. Appreciate it. And please give us a thumbs up if you like the content. And we'll be back next week with some more conference previews. All right, big man.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Drew.